everybody, happy Labor Day. It's good to be here with you. Um, about a month ago, I had said there weren't going to be any regular story times with Beth, but it just so happened that today is a holiday, so I'm not at work, and I also haven't started my class that I'll be taking quite yet, so we get to do another story time. Um, I'm really excited about this one. This is The Lake of Living Water, a short story prequel to my Firstborn's Legacy saga. Um, Fiadsword, I'm probably mispronouncing your name, but Fiadowordster, thank you for joining. It's good to have you here. Um, so The Lake of Living Water is a fantasy reimagining of the story of the biblical fall of humanity, and I love it quite a lot. If you like it after this, you can get your own ebook of it from Amazon, or you can get it free through my newsletter. Sophia from Realm Makers, it's good to see you here. It was awesome meeting you a month and a half ago now. Man, time has gone quickly. So we're just gonna start reading. And because it's an ebook, I don't have a physical copy with me, so I'm going to be looking in a weird direction to read off the screen. But yes, welcome, and let's begin. The story begins back in Elcidon. I've told you of Elcidon before, haven't I? Yes, Elcidon was the most perfect place you can imagine. The air smelled cleaner, the stars shone brighter, the trees grew taller, the fruit was juicier, and our hearts were lighter. Everything was perfect. All of us, the 50-some first humans, and we their children, the firstborn, had wondrous adventures. Your Uncle Nemec, Aunt Sane, and I had the best adventures of all. This story begins like most of our adventures. Nemec, Sane, and I were in a vast meadow. A white wolf lay beside Nemec, who ruffled the fur behind its ears. The wide, doggy grin covered the wolf's face. Animals loved Nemec, and Nemec loved animals. Sane crouched and peered intently at the ground. She let out a laugh of delight and spread the grass with her fingers. Nemec, Narda, look! Here is a flower I've never seen before. We huddled close. Nestled in the deep green was a tiny bloom, similar in color to the pink-purple of heliotrope, but of a more delicate shape. We marveled at the blossom, never tired of the joy of discovery. Ea is gracious, we sang, praising our Creator for a new delight. Then we knew Ea was near, as happened often in those days. Your curiosity honors him, my child. Let me try to describe him. Ea is, better than the best dream you've had. His pleasure blanketed everything in Elcidon. He was never far, but when he was near, he felt more alive than ever. Just as this apple is more real than an apple in your imagination, so Ea is real love, truth, joy, hope, peace, every good thing. Okay, yes, I'm getting to that. What he looks like doesn't matter nearly as much as what he felt like. I guess it's not quite right to say we saw him. There was a brightness around us whenever he was near. We saw him the way you feel the warmth of a fire in the midst of winter snows. We heard him as you hear your own thoughts, only clearer. I know I'm doing a poor job of explaining. I wish you could know him as we knew him in Elcidon. Someday. As we delighted in the flower, Ea drew near. We rejoiced in the flower's beauty. We rejoiced in Ea's presence. We rejoiced to be alive. Some time later, Sane still stared at the flower. She loves plants even now. Nemec had returned to petting the wolf, and a young fawn had joined them. It lay on Nemec's other side, occasionally nibbling on his hair and rambling about the different flavors of grass. I lay on my back in the sweet grass and gazed at the mountains in the north. A lovely thought popped into my mind. "I've thought of our next adventure," I announced, jumping to my feet. "Let's climb the mountains." "We just did that the other day, Narda," my brother said. "Why don't we go to the wet forest in the east? We can camp there and watch the twinkle bugs dance at night. Zane, you can play your flute for them." Zane smiled. "Both of those sound fun. We could climb the mountain today, then go to the forest tomorrow." I shook my head. "We've climbed around the mountains before. This time I want to climb as high as possible." "But they have no top," Nemec said. "The mountains rise until they fade into the heavens." I grinned. Exactly. Wouldn't it be marvelous to pass into the sky and meet the stars? My brother and sister exchanged glances. They never enjoyed climbing quite as much as I did, but their eyebrows and lips still lifted. "That would be amazing," Zane agreed. "Let's give it a try." We dipped our banana leaf pouches in the nearest stream and plucked figs from their trees. The fig wasps buzzed harmlessly around us as we passed. The ground tilted, steadily growing steeper as we went. Trees grew aplenty to shelter us in cooling shade. In the beginning, a well-worn path led our way through their trunks. All of us, my siblings, our parents, and the rest of the humans, used to play often at the foot of the mountains. We sang as we climbed. I cannot tell you the songs, for our language was twisted in the rending, but I'm getting ahead of myself. You would not understand the songs, my dears, but it wasn't the words that mattered. What mattered was the heart behind the words. Our hearts were full of light and full of laughter. A day's walk brought us up to the flat shelf where a bivouac of pine branches always stood against a cliffside. When the nights were warm and clear, we used to climb up here to camp for weeks at a time. I little guessed then that this would be my last night resting there. In the morning we continued on our way. The path was less trodden here. Ferns and bushes grew thick around the tree trunks, and wood rats built their many-chambered nests in clever displays of their architectural ingenuity. The next day brought us further than we usually climbed. That high on the mountains, boulders broke the even ground. "It's like piles of stone the little ones make." Zane smiled and pointed at the rocks, as wide as we are tall, piled atop each other. Nemec approached a rock pile that looked particularly precarious. He wedged his shoulder against one of the rocks on the edge and pushed. The boulder didn't wiggle. "They're stuck firmly in place, whoever put them here," Nemec said. "I should think so, if even you can't move them." I nudged Nemec and grinned as I passed him. At the base of the nearest rock pile, I reached up and started climbing, feeling out hand and footholds as I went. "I don't really wish to climb today," Nemec said. "Please come?" I peered over my shoulder at my brother and sister standing below. "We've barely begun. Let's climb all the way to the top." "That would be fun," Nemec said, lips twisting. "We should certainly do it some day. I don't know if today is the day, though." Zane put a hand on his shoulder. "Let's go for a while more," she suggested. "Maybe we'll find something new." As soon as I saw them following, I continued in my climb. The rocks piled higher and higher, further up than we'd seen from their bottom. Soon color flashed around us. Birds of many colors nestled among the rocks. They aroused themselves and sang and swept around us, a shower of shimmering tail feathers and bright beaks. They sang to us and cheered us on. As we reached the top, delightfully sore from the exertion, we collapsed on a field of thick, soft heather. With the sun already hidden by the horizon and the stars starting to stand out in the sky, we slipped into sleep. At sunrise, Nemec's exclamation woke us. "Look!" Below us stretched Elstedon, as far as we could see. The hills, vales, forests, meadows, marshes, and streams sprawled bright in the morning light. Far away to the south, the sea glittered. Above us, almost close enough to touch, hung a canopy of clouds. I laughed and jumped to my feet. We're in the sky! We're almost inside the clouds! Even Nemec smiled at that. I've never been inside a cloud before, he said. Munching on figs and winter bloom nuts that we had gathered on the fringe of the heather field, we continued upward. Soon the air around us filled with glowing haze. We were entering the underbelly of the clouds. You've been in fog before, so this will come as no surprise to you, but we had never experienced it before. The glow gave way to gentle, thick gray. It encompassed everything and blinded us to our surroundings. We walked on tiptoes, scarcely daring to breathe. Every move we made disturbed the sacred silence. My heart lifted more and more. We were close to the heavens, I knew it. At any moment we would pass out of the world. Had any human climbed this far before? My siblings did not feel the same thrill. Zane dragged at my arm after a while. Narda, let's go back, she said. I stared at her. But we've come so far, Zane. We can come this far again, Nemec pointed out. We have forever. Let's go back down now. Yeah, Zane agreed. We've been inside a cloud now. We can tell the others about it. Then we can go see the twinklebugs. I wanted to agree with them. Back in Elsadon, no one ever fought. I also wanted to keep going, though. Something called me upward. You can go back, I told them. I'll keep climbing. I'm not ready to go down just yet. Nemec and Zane gaped at me. Keep going? On your own? You might think they feared for my safety, but that wasn't the case. No one had ever been seriously injured. No one had ever slipped or lost their footing. I was perfectly safe to go on my own, which you should never do. Take someone with you on your adventures, children. No, the reason for Nemec and Zane's surprise was this. We always did everything together. Never had we gone on an adventure without each other, at least since I was old enough to accompany them. I just laughed and shooed them away. I'll be fine. It'll be fun. We can tell each other stories when we meet back up. That made them smile. By the creek, on our tree bridge, Nemec suggested, referring to a tree that grew sideways and offered a perfect perch for 3 people. That's a perfect idea, Zane said. Don't worry, Narda, I won't let Nemec embellish her story too much. We parted ways laughing. Your aunt and uncle turned back down the mountain. I kept climbing. At last, the clouds started to thin around me. The light grew whiter instead of grayer. Then something new happened. The air around me took on colors. Red, yellow, blue, green, all the colors I've ever seen streaked through the air and danced on my clothes. A few feet further, and I emerged from the clouds. What do you think? I'd walked through a rainbow. Below me, the bands of color arced out. The grin hadn't faded from my lips when I rounded a boulder and saw something that made me pause. Spindly piles of cracked stones poked out of the ground, striped in every color of mineral and gem. Brush fanned out of the top of the piles like a thatch hat on a stick. As I puzzled over the sight, a screech rang out, followed by cheeps. Something moved on the top of a spindle. Creatures I'd never seen before popped out of what I now realized were nests. One leapt into the air and landed in front of me, a flurry of fur and feathers. "Greetings, good fellow," it said. It spoke through a hooked beak and twisted its head from side to side to peer through its bird-like eyes. Mottled brown feathers adorned its head and trailed into russet fur that ruffled over a muscular cat-like body. Large wings sprouted from its back, a feline tail waved behind it, and claws like talons gripped the ground. It was a hawk cat. "Greetings," I replied. "What fun to meet you." "Indeed," the hawk cat replied. "Rarely have we seen humans up this far on the mountain, and more rarely still do we fly down to the valley." "I'm on an adventure," I explained. "Marvelous! What is the aim of your adventure?" the hawk cat asked. I lifted my eyes to the point where the mountains faded into the sky. "I'm climbing to the top of the mountain." That is an adventure indeed. What a glorious idea! Have you ever been? I asked, eyeing the hawk cat's wings. It gave a cackling laugh. No, we do not go that high. The fire ones are further up. They may have done so. My eyes widened as yours are now. The fire ones? The hawk cat's mouth stretched into what could only have been a smile. They are good friends of ours. It's been a while since we visited them, though. Say, why don't we help you on your adventure? We can fly you up to their colony. Delighted by the offer, I followed the hawk cat through the stone spires. The colorful rocks crunched together underneath my feet, and I realized that the spindles weren't made of rock at all. They were eggshells. We were in the hawk cat's rookery. When the hawk cat paused, I clambered onto its back. Then it leapt into the air. The others followed suit, and the sky filled with these marvelous new creatures, my new friends. Wind swished by as we left the ground behind us. I threw my hands in the air and whooped. After we flew for a while, a great shiny-footed cliff loomed up. The hawk cats sent out a chorus of screeches, and an answering chorus of chirps and squeaks rose from the cliffside. Large shapes, bigger than the hawk cats, detached from the cliff sides and swept towards us. "Our friends," the hawk cats called. "We have someone for you to meet." Then we were close enough for me to see the approaching creatures. These were like horned lizards with bat wings. The hawk cat carrying me looked back. "These are the fire ones." "Why do you call them that?" I asked. The lizard bats heard and chuckled. "Shall we show him?" And great plumes of fire shot from their open mouths. We landed on one of the cliff ledges, and the hawk cats explained my adventure to the lizard bats. "That's remarkable," the lizard bats agreed. "We can help you along too, but only to the base of the waterfall. We never go further." And so we flew higher and higher, till the thundering crash of falling water rose above the flap of fleshy wings and the songs of the fire ones. They alighted at the foot of a waterfall that foamed down, as wide as our village and stretching higher than I could see from the base. Rainbows danced along its length, colorful stairs leading up to the heavens. "What you seek is not far beyond the waterfall, we think," the lion bats told me. "Happy climbing. May Ea shine favor on you." I thanked them. When morning came, I took hold of the cliffside next to the waterfall and began what I hoped would be the last stretch of my adventure. All day and all night I climbed. My limbs burned and ached. The ground disappeared below. I shudder now to think what might have happened had I fallen, but the thought of falling never entered my mind back then. In the faint glow of early morning, paler here it seemed, I scrambled over the edge of the cliff. I was at the bank of a great lake, smooth as glass. Colored stones speckled its bed. Out away from the shore, the bottom stayed visible. The stones grew paler and brighter at the same time, losing their color but gaining shine. The water turned dark, but not murky. In the end, I couldn't tell where the water ended and the sky began. This was it. I'd found the edge of the world. Worn by my climb, too tired to go on without rest, I dipped my hands into the tranquil edge of the lake. Joy washed over me. I lifted water in cupped hands to my lips and drank. Energy coursed through me, my scraped knuckles and knees healed over. A wordless song burst from my lips. On impulse, I plunged into the lake. Water closed over my head, and the absolute assurance that I was deeply loved and safe wrapped around me. The lake felt the way Ea's nearness felt, only more pure and intense. I held my breath longer than I ever had before. Time no longer seemed to matter. My skin began to glow. When I kicked up to the surface, I broke through with laughter. I laughed and laughed and laughed some more, tears of joy streaming down my face and mingling with the lake water. When I bored of laughing, I relaxed and floated on my back. New songs bubbled to my lips. I sang and floated and rejoiced, and I was free and safe and loved. A thought came over me. I had to bring the others here. Everyone needed to find this lake with water that filled me with life. First, though, I would accomplish what I set out to do. Turning over, I set to swim through the water toward the sky. I was close. I would be the first human in the heavens. Before I could go far, another new thing happened. This time, it wasn't a good new thing. I didn't have a name for it then. I'd never experienced anything like it. Pain, deeper than anything you've ever felt, ripped through my heart and through every fiber of my body. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think beyond this one thought. Something was terribly, horribly wrong. Terror and pain were my last thought as the world went dark. Rustling water broke through the blackness. I found myself on the shore of the lake. My insides heaved and burned like boiling soup. My head pounded. I gasped and gripped the rocky ground. "Hey, Aya," I cried, a new word. We say that prayer often now, my children, but it had never before been said. Never before had we needed help. Never had salvation been required. For the first time in my life, I knew I was in desperate need of my Creator. I am here. That noiseless voice pierced through my pain. I peeled my eyes open. Light greeted me, the pure glow of Aya's nearness. "What is happening?" I cried. Hot tears scalded my cheeks and splashed to the ground. "Did I do something wrong?" Aya moved nearer. "No. My son, you have done well. You sought nearness to me and followed the dream I placed in your heart." "I don't understand. This," I pointed to my chest, "is burning and breaking. It's not good." The light grew still closer and touched my chest. Feelings stronger than mine coursed through me. Grief, anger, pain, loss, and, above all, love. The light moved back. "I feel it too. It is not from your actions, but the choice of others." "Others?" "While you sought this lake, whose waters bestow eternal life to all who enter them, your kindred sought another water." As soon as he said that, I knew. There was one pond we never went near, one pond we avoided at all costs. Long ago, when Ea formed the first humans, the ancient traitor Avena skulked into Elstedon to spy on them. When the evil traitor saw the new beings, he wept with rage and jealousy. Avena's tears formed what we called the Pond of Separation. It was said that the mere touch of its waters would poison a person's heart and prompt them to make choices separate from what pleased Ea. "No," I shook my head, "they wouldn't." Sorrow pulsed from Ea. "They did." His sorrow compounded mine. I wept. "What will become of us?" I asked, once my tears trailed off. "They chose to rebel against me, as Avena did long ago. The consequence is this: where once you had ease, now labor and weep. The ground that was once your dance floor shall produce thorns and weeds. Through you all creation is cursed until I restore perfection." I wept again, until Ea's hand once more rested on me, this time on my shoulder. The grief and pain were still there, but promise joined them. "All creation is now under a curse, and you are part of creation. But you did not initiate the curse. You drank from the lake of living water. Therefore, though all now die, yet you will live, and through your descendants I will redeem creation." That promise strengthened me. My heart still grieved. My innocence was lost. But I knew Ea would be true to his word. I stood. What shall I do? Ea moved to the side, and I glimpsed the lake. Its waters, once so smooth, now frothed. Creation has been torn. No longer will ground and sky be linked. No longer will I walk among you in this way. Go, warn your family. Elsadon will be no more. For the last time, his light encompassed me. Then he was gone. The lake writhed. Waves grew on its edge, crashing closer and closer to me. With one last glance at the heavens, I turned and scrambled down the waterfall. The ground pulled at me, the spray threatened my grip, and fear invaded me. I could fall. I could hurt. At the base of the waterfall, I sprinted. The pounding of falling water amplified. The white foam of the lake's waves shot into the sky. The top of the cliff began to crumble. I raced down the mountain, scattering pebbles as I ran. I skidded to a halt at the edge of the Fire One's cliff, shouting their names. The lizard bats rose up to meet me. They opened their mouths, doubtless to ask what was happening. But no words came out. Only squeaks escaped, squeaks that I could not interpret. Ea, I prayed, may they still understand me. My friends, a curse has come. Elsadon is crumbling. You need to flee. At least they understood. Most of the Fire Ones turned at my words and sped off toward the far horizon. One lingered, looking me in the eye. It nodded. I backed up and took a running leap. For a moment I fell through the air. Fear choked me. I thudded into the lizard bat's back. A scramble. I caught its wings. With me firmly seated between its wings, the Fire One rushed after its kindred. We blasted over the hot cat's rookery. The lizard bats chirped, and I shouted warnings to them. The hot cats screeched back at us wordlessly. Their faces contorted in fear, but they took to the air too. We swept through the blanket of clouds, now black and boiling. Light flashed and splintered. The colorful birds joined us in a living cascade. Their tongues, too, were silenced. All they could manage was terrified squawks. Over the rocks and trees and flowers we dashed. I glanced back once more. Dust billowed, rolling after us. Lightning flashed. Water foamed. The edge of the world was scrolling down at a dreadful pace. I did not look back again. We flew toward the pond of separation. Huddled there, clutching the grass and staring in abject horror at the sky, were the rest of the humans. I recognized each of them, knew them by name. A new feeling welled up inside of me. Hate. Anger. They had ruined everything, and for what? They saw me approach. Nemec and Sane started to their feet. Narda, they said, voices trailing off. Their mouths hung open. I knew my siblings well. They didn't know how to tell me what they had done. This was one story they could not face. I know, I spat. My lizard bat slowed as we drew near. Elsadon is over. Everyone climb on if you want to live. That was a new horror compounded on the others, a brand new terrible thought. Life could end. They might not survive this. The hot cats and lizard bats touched down just long enough for the first humans and firstborn to scramble onto their backs. As soon as that happened, they were back in the air. My Fire One led the way toward the sea. It rose up to meet us, frothing and roaring. Over the midnight depths we flew. Shapes filled the water and chased us on the crests of waves. The sight made me cold. I struggled to breathe. A scream rent the air. One of the waves surged up and grabbed the hot cat Maya rode on. The beast and Maya shrieked as the water tugged them down. White foam closed over them. I'd known Maya all her life. She was always full of laughter. She came up with the best rhymes and word games. Just like that, she was gone. Chirping, squawking, screeching, our mounts climbed higher into the air. Torrents of wind swirled around us. A gust snatched Luam from his lizard bat. He flew through the air, a silent scream etched on his face, and smacked the writhing water's surface. The world was ending, our home was collapsing, and we were under attack from the Evenkates, Avena's followers. More fell. Survival seemed impossible. I will spare you any more gruesome details. All hope was lost. Then new shapes joined the snarling waves and rushing wind. Water fought water. Air fought air. The Evenkates' attention was drawn away. The Kates had entered the world and begun their first act of protecting the now mortal humans. It was only by their assistance, by Aya's grace, that we at last reached new land. The lizard bats and hawk cats collapsed to the ground. We tumbled onto soil we had never seen. In the distance, the dust and waves began to calm, though they wouldn't calm completely for months. To this day, they still rumble and toss on occasion. For the time being, we were safe, and halved in number. Thus we came to this land, where weeds grow tall, storms wreak havoc, and disease cuts life short. We picked up the shreds of life that remained in us. We wept for the first dead of the world. We built dwellings to shelter us from this dangerous new world. And so life continues, a shattered and bleeding reflection of what it used to be, with the ground and heavens torn apart. You have never known Alcidon. Ia's voice is achingly faint. This world is far from what it was meant to be. But take heart, dear children. The world will not be this way forever. Remember the promise from beside the lake of living water. One day Ea shall repair what was rent. One day creation will be redeemed. And that is the end of the Lake of Living Water. Thank you guys for reading with me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked it, again, you can get the ebook for free by signing up for my newsletter. The link is in my description in Instagram, and I'll put it down in the description of the video on YouTube. And it's also available for purchase on Amazon if you don't want to subscribe. And yeah. Oh, and I would love a review if you feel so inclined. Yeah, Sophia, I thank you for your heart face. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for sticking around. If you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to type them now. An update on what is currently happening. I am working on rewriting Steward's story number 5. It's called Taylor Elamir, and it is going to be good, I think. It's going to be challenging to write, but so far all the Steward stories have been challenging to write, and I think that that's a good thing, because that means that I'm being honest and writing about things that matter, and also growing as an author. So yeah, I was working on that earlier today, which was wonderful. So that's 5 of 7. The next one is Matron Gaia, and then the one after that is Steward Ducato. And then I will really firmly dive fully into rewrites of Book 2, The Steward's Apprentice. In addition to that, school has started, so I'm back to teaching, and I'm so excited for this year. I think I've got amazing students, and I'm trying some new things, so I'm growing not just as a writer, but also in other aspects of life. And yeah, doing art in free time. You can see some of it in the background. Well, I'll turn the Instagram video around. You can see some of it in the background. Yeah, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your Labor Day and a wonderful rest of your September. It's September now, so bye.